Hello, and welcome to Spelling Shed's Summer Overview and New Features Demo. My name is Maggie Moosfeet, and I'm the Curriculum Director here at EdShed. Let's go ahead and get started. So, what all is included in your Spelling Shed Premium subscription? You have access to all of our online Spelling Shed games, including phonics and math games as a bonus, an online teacher hub, which allows simple management of student records, teachers, and classes. There's online tracking and data analysis. You can set and monitor online assignments, homework, and assessments. There is a whole class Hive game, which is a fun alternative to a weekly spelling test. We have some new features, our AI-driven mastery zone, which is an adaptive spelling diagnostic and gap filling exercise. We have our brand new grammar arcade, which are grammar games that provide a more complete coverage of ELA standards. And then we have our K through 5 curriculum that's available based in the science of reading research and aligns with national and state standards. We have spelling word lists that follow a systematic progression of skills in each stage, which includes full lesson plans, teaching PowerPoints, and printable student worksheets. So what does the research say about being a good speller? Well, an effective speller draws upon the entire rich linguistic tapestry of a word to spell it correctly. The threads of this tapestry are identified as phonological knowledge, orthographic knowledge, morphological knowledge, and etymological knowledge, and visual knowledge. So here's an example of one of our PowerPoints. So we do include PowerPoints that you can present to the children and have activities. These are some that show our phonological knowledge activities. This is a part of the presentation that you would present, but it's also a part of the printable worksheets. So this is an activity practicing orthographic knowledge. And these are some slides that you'd present when you're doing the teaching slides in the PowerPoint that give you some examples of the etymological knowledge. And then these are teaching slides as well that practice that morphological knowledge. And then we have printable worksheets as well that students can work on those activities. This is an example of one of our PowerPoints, something that you would present together as a class, work on together, and you go through all of these different skills. And then there are activities at the end, which are also available as printable worksheets. And then you can go over them in the PowerPoint together and check your answers. This is the Spelling Shed lesson structure. All lessons throughout grade 1 through 5 follow the same structure. This is an example of a stage 1 teacher lesson plan. It will have a corresponding PowerPoint presentation and then printable worksheets for the students. To the right is a worksheet example from stage 3. So the Spelling Shed curriculum is very flexible. It's used to be able to design to fit with your school's needs. Each lesson has been designed so it can either be taught as a single lesson in one sitting or split into several sessions delivered over the course of a week. These lessons can be taught as a whole group, small groups, or interventions. So here we have in green an example 3-day weekly spelling sequence breakdown. So for example, you could give a pretest at the beginning of the week. Session 1 or one day, you'd spend 10 to 20 minutes reviewing the PowerPoint and having an instructor-led lesson. So for example, you could do the revise and introduction section of the lessons. Then you would allow a little bit of time for online practice. So we suggest at least 10 minutes of online practice. That could be broken down into 5 minutes of assignments and gameplay, 5 minutes of mastery zone. You could also have an additional day where they're only doing online practice. Session 2, 10 to 20 minutes, again, PowerPoint and an instructor-led lesson. You'd go over the main teaching input. And then again, that online practice. Session 3, you'd have a 10 to 20 minute independent and intervention session. So this is where students would work on those worksheets that you can print out. Then you can pull and do interventions or even review answers from those worksheets. And again, that 10-minute online practice. And then at the end of the week, you'd want to give them an assessment, either a Hive game or an assignment in test mode, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. So how can you use our Spelling Shed lessons to support your spelling instruction? So we suggest downloading the resources for the week. That would be your PowerPoint, your printable worksheets, and your lesson plan. Of course, you'd want to review those and make sure you're aware of what you're going to be presenting. If desired, you can give students a pre-test, again as a Hive or an assessment in test mode. And then you would teach the lesson using the PowerPoint slides. Again, the lessons can be taught in one sitting or broken down into small parts throughout the week. You'd have students complete the printable worksheets either independently, in pairs, or in small groups. And then you would want to assign the students that word list for the week. And we suggest assigning them to play it at least 5 times. So play 5 games with that list of words. And then monitor their progress. And then in between that, you'd want to work on Mastery Zone so you can help to fill those gaps. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about what Mastery Zone is later. And at the end of the week, you would want to assess. This is an example of where you can find the Spelling Shed curriculum. If you go to the Spelling Shed tab on the left and you hit curriculum, you can choose which stage you'd like to work on. And again, stages correlate with grades. So stage 1 would be grade 1. You can go up or down. We say stage just in case students need to go up or down and they're not feeling limited to a certain grade level. But here's where you can see all the planning and resources and everything that you can download right at your fingertips. All right, everyone's favorite, our online games. Some people like to use these games on an interactive whiteboard as a class together. Students can also play them on individual devices in class or at home. You select or assign the students a specific word list to play the games and practice their spelling. We understand student choice is very important, so they get to choose which game that they want to play with that list and at what difficulty level they are comfortable with. We have a range of games for practicing spelling, including some additional vocabulary games such as selecting the correctly misspelled word and also matching definitions with spelling words. We also have our new Squirrel Squirry Lava game, our AI-driven Mastery Zone, and grammar arcade games, which we will talk about in a moment. So now let's look at how to give students assignments. So we recommend creating assignments on the online platform as the main way of giving students spelling practice outside of those downloadable lessons and offline independent work. In addition, you can set assignments in test mode, which is another form of assessment that students can complete at their own pace. There is an option to limit lists, so only active assignments are seen until the required amount of games are played. Assignment sets can be used to assign our curriculum list automatically. It will set the whole year's worth of assignments in one go, so you don't have to go in every single week and assign students those. Students get an assignment rank, which recognizes their accuracy as well as the game difficulty. So here's an example of the assignment rank coding. We have egg, larva, drone, worker bee, soldier bee, and royal bee. So the way that Spelling Shed calculates the score is by multiplying the last 5 games or less by the average percent correct and the average difficulty level of those games the student was playing. This score reflects students' learning over time and helps build automaticity to make words really stick. When you limit lists when setting an assignment, if they reach this royal bee status, the highest one, they'll be able to access the other lists and the other games. You can limit options when you're setting the assignments, which can be really handy to prevent them from ignoring assignments that you've set. The top two images are of the student dashboard view when there are no limit list settings applied. So as you can see, it's fully open. All the lists are available. Mastery zones available. All the games. Phonics Shed, Grammar Arcade, Math Shed, Quiz Shed. So students can peruse those at their own if you wish them to do that. The bottom picture is a view of the dashboard when they have an assignment with limit lists. You can see that all they see is the Spelling Shed tab, and when they click into it, the only thing they'll see is their assignment. The 4 games on the top of this game screen, this is the student view. When they select their assignment, they get to choose the game that they want to play with it. So these top 4 games are the ones that count towards completing their assignment. So if you set them to play 5 games, they have to choose whatever game they want and play that 5 times for their assignment to be complete. The games below the red line are just extra games that they can play with that list. So the additional games that we have are Missing Word. This game type mirrors the main game, but gives a sentence with a missing word, and in Easy and Medium gives plausible incorrect spellings. The Definitions game, students are given a definition and have to match it to the correctly spelled word. In Beekeeper, you guess your words by choosing letters, kind of similar to Hangman. And then Squirrel Scurry is a race to spell the word correctly before falling in the lava. So they can choose to play this versus the computer, or they can just choose to play it solo on their own against themselves. Once students choose the game that they want to play with their assignment, they can select which difficulty level they're comfortable with. The higher the difficulty, the higher the rewards given. But even at the easy levels, students still get rewards and get to feel successful in their spelling attempts. So now on to the new Mastery Zone. Mastery Zone is the AI-driven adaptive EdShed tool that ensures each student's learning is focused on the words and the spelling patterns they need to master to progress. It's powered by our own nanobees, and Mastery Zone begins by guiding each student through a mini diagnostic to determine their strengths and areas for improvement. We recommend getting all students to take the diagnostic at the beginning of the school year so they can better be leveled and placed in the right stage to have that personalized practice at their level. The diagnostic will give students words to spell, and depending on their performance, the adaptive diagnostic will give harder or easier words to determine what spelling level they're at. Based on the diagnostic data, the game will give them words of increasing difficulty or decreasing difficulty, depending on their progress, to practice. So it will provide them that personalized, independent, adaptive practice. Words they spell correctly will keep on appearing until they've fully mastered it. Each word is first played in easy mode, and after time, they have to master it on more difficult levels. It will recap concepts they should have previously covered and find gaps to help fill them in. Each day that children log on to play, they earn a bumble stem. If they get a 5-day streak, they'll earn an additional 100 honeypots, which are one of the rewards on EdShed, which are used to buy avatar alterations. And it's on top of that they earn for playing. So it encourages daily play. So even a little bit can be very effective. These are the student view of their progress on Mastery Zone. It will show the words that have come up in their play, and then it will show if they've mastered it or if they're getting there. It's a very effective tool for finding and filling gaps to help differentiate and personalize spelling practice for all levels of learners. The best part is that it's driven by AI, so students can independently practice spelling at their own level anytime. So this is test mode. When creating an assignment, you have the option to put it in test mode. Assignments created in test mode require students to complete one single gameplay and offer additional assessment data tracking. Gameplay results are saved after every question and will restart from that point if a student exits out of that game in test mode. Students are not allowed to restart the gameplay from the beginning of the list if they make a mistake. If you enable limit lists options to prevent students from playing any games for any subject which aren't connected to an assignment, including Mastery Zone or browsing or creating lists or creating challenges. The Hive games are played live with everyone spelling the same word at the same time on the spelling bee game. A code is generated for students to log on to the game. Every student will need their own device. The teacher controls the Hive game from the dashboard on their central computer or laptop, and a league table can be shown in between the rounds. The data is reported to the teacher hub with a grid of correct and incorrect spellings to show any trends. You can also see if children are making mistakes, if it's a typo error, or whether or not they got confused with the spelling of the word. It can be used as a whole class assessment, a bit like a spelling test, but much more fun. Students can also initiate a Hive game on their own and invite friends to play with them. And there are options on here where you can show the word to the students on the screen, or you can hide that. Options where you can have the audio playing from your device or their own individual devices. So there's a bunch of different options for you on how to administer the Hive game. Here is some of our data reporting charts. Here we've got our data grid that shows all the children, and across the top we've got the word lists. This can be found on each group's page under the Spelling Shed tab. This grid can be helpful for gap analysis because, for example, you can see list 15, we've got lots of children on red. That's maybe showing that I might need to do a lesson in class again, because children are really struggling with that specific pattern. If I click that list, I can see exactly which words they're struggling with. I can see which children are struggling as well from looking at this overview to help pinpoint some of that. The grid displays on a competency score from 0 to 100 based on the last 5 gameplays. So if students have not played at least 5 games with that list, the number won't really make sense yet. That's why we recommend students playing at least 5 games a week. The data grid at the bottom right is from an individual student's dashboard. You can see how many times they've spelled the word, and you can also see if there are any errors and exactly what they were. You can start to notice if there are any misconceptions that you need to deal with as well. You can also create personalized lists for students based on the words that they've spelled in the last 7 days. This same report can be found for group data as well. The grid on the bottom left is a data report from a Hive game. If you play an assessment on test mode, the data will display in a very similar way. So we also have leagues, and there's a scoring system. Each play of our main games has a score for correct answers, a speed bonus, a difficulty multiplier, and streak bonuses. This score is called the Shed score. The Shed score is the rolling total of scores for the past 7 days. Leagues are ranked by the Shed score to show current performance. When showing individual students in a league, the total score, which is all points ever earned, will show as well. On the Student Spelling Shed dashboard, the total score, highest score, and honeypot total is shown. And just be aware that the Shed score does go down and up because it's an average of the past 7 days. So if they don't play as much as they played in other days, the score can go down when it's averaged. So it's just important that students and parents understand that when looking at the Shed score. Avatars and honeypots. So students have avatars that they can modify. So honeypots are the currency in the game that students earn when they play, and then they can click into their avatar and add extra features, backgrounds, hair, and personalize those avatars. And there's a couple ways that teachers can actually manually add or take away honeypots as needed. This can be done on the individual student data page or on the groups page. And then we have our brand new Grammar Arcade. So it's a fun and engaging way to improve grammar skills. The questions are targeted to specific curriculum objectives, and it provides a more comprehensive coverage of ELA standards. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can select the stage that you would like to work at, and then they're broken down into categories. We have parts of speech, punctuation, tenses, sentence structure, and vocabulary. So within those, there are objectives covered, and you can select which of an objective you'd like students to work on, and that game will play. Alternatively, if there's a game that students really, really like or want to play, you can click on that game and see what objectives are covered in that game, and then they can just play that way as well. So there's two different ways that you can access that Grammar Arcade games. Grammar Arcade is just recently released. It is available on the student dashboard currently, and you can also assign them things in the assignment section from the Grammar Arcade games. So we've got a bunch of different games, and they're very engaging, a lot of fun. The fish game is very popular. I think it's one of the most popular ones I've heard from the kids so far. But there's a lot of great new games out there to play and a lot more material covered as well. So how can you use the online games to support your spelling instruction? Well, you want to assign students a word list for the week. You can use our curriculum list, or you can import your own list as well. Again, best practice is 5 or more games a week, practicing for at least 10 minutes for each online session you're playing. You want to have students work on Mastery Zone in between to help fill those gaps that they're missing in between the spelling instruction. And then you want to make sure you assess at the end of the week. And if you have time, try to fit in those Grammar Arcade games as well. And so we have some new features coming out. We have new avatar options, which will be released very soon, including all kinds of new hats and backgrounds and toys and pets now. So now you can even earn a little pet to have in your avatar as well. And we also have a new game coming out called Besieged. Besiege is a type of tower of defense game. We get to choose a map, and you're protecting the gate to defend the queen from invading insects. Every round, you get an opportunity to get nectar, which is the currency inside of this new game, Besieged. In order to earn the nectar, you have to spell the words correctly. Word choices are driven by the Mastery Zone data. So you want to make sure that students have taken that diagnostic and practice on Mastery Zone, so that's a more fulfilling data background to work with this new game. Every child will have their own progression of words, providing personalized practice. There's a bit of strategy involved in the game as well. So this is a really great game for older students or students that are looking for a more challenging and engaging game. If you need any help, you can always click on the Help tab and look at the guides and videos that we have there. So for more detailed information on the teacher dashboard, all the different games and features like leagues and challenges, Hive games, all the things we just talked about, there are more in-depth videos online to help explain and guide you through those features. You can also visit our YouTube page, which is listed here, to find our most up-to-date help videos. If you want a personalized demo of any of these features, anything we discussed, any questions you have, please don't hesitate. Book a Zoom meeting with me. There's a link right there for you, and I can help take you through any features you're more curious to learn about. My email is listed here as well, and a couple of our support emails. And then on this page here, it's showing you where this help tab is on the Spelling Shed dashboard. There's a couple guides you can download, and then there's some quick helpful videos there for you as well. So thank you so much for your time. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to email me.